So today what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to make a true cinemagraph, which means that we're working with a single source of video and then using Photoshop to edit that video and create the cinemagraph effect. The best cinemagraphs look like still images that just have a small area of motion or something moving in it. Here's an example. And if you take a look, you'll notice that there's nothing else moving except for that wine pouring. And what makes it even more interesting is that that glass never fills up, even though that wine continues to pour. The other effect we want to create with the cinemagraph is a very smooth looping motion. When you're looking for video to turn into a cinemagraph, or if you want to record your own, it's very important that there's not too much movement everywhere else in the scene. And it's also really important that the camera does not move at all. So using a tripod is critical when you're taking a look at stock footage you might want to use. Assess it very carefully. Make sure that the camera's not moving, that it's completely still. A well-created cinemagraph looks incredibly impressive, but is surprisingly easy to make in Photoshop. So to start our cinemagraph, we're going to open up Photoshop and we're going to go to File, Open. Find the video that you want to use, open it up, and when we open up a video in Photoshop, we automatically have a document that's the right size, the exact size of our video, and the timeline window should automatically open up for you. If we take a look at our Layers palette, you'll notice that you have this video group folder, and we're just going to click on our video clip that's in the folder and drag it up and out, and then delete the folder. We don't need those video group folders for what we want to create, and this will just keep our Layers palette a lot cleaner. And we'll scrub through our video to locate the area that we want to create that cinemagraph from. Once you find an area that you think is going to work, just leave that little time indicator where it is, and then edit your video down by clicking and dragging to make it shorter. I'm just going to shorten it up all the way around this general area, and then I can refine my edit later on. Now I want to test out how this clip is going to play back, and to do that, I'm going to go to the gear icon in the timeline window and ensure that loop playback is enabled. When I press my space bar, it plays back, and it lets me see how that might look as an infinite loop. And I think it looks a little too erratic, so I'm going to extend my clip out a little bit, try it again. All right, and I'm going to try that. The next thing you want to do is figure out what frame is going to act as that still image. And I'm just going to use my time indicator, and I'm going to scrub to about here. We'll see if this works. And once I figured out which frame of video I want to act as that still image, I'm going to go to my Layers palette, and I'm going to duplicate that layer by dragging and dropping it on top of the New Layer button. Now I have an exact copy of that video, and then I'm going to take this copy and I'm going to convert it to a still image. So I'm going to go to Layer, Video Layers, Rasterize. And you'll notice that what it's done is it's just created a still image of whatever frame I was currently viewing before I executed that rasterize command. And if I click and drag through the timeline, you can see that it is indeed a still image. Our next step is to add a layer mask to that still image layer. Select our paintbrush tool, make whatever changes are necessary, and make sure that we're painting with black. You'll notice that this newly created layer mask is white, and what we want to do is we basically want to erase a hole so we can see the motion part of the video clip underneath. I'm just going to do this really quickly. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a look at where that wine is pouring through. So I'm just making a very quick and sloppy hole. And I can always refine that later. And just so that you're really clear about what's going on, I'm going to hide my video layer. And you can see that all I've done is I've created, basically punched a hole in that still image so I can see some of the motion in the video clip underneath. I'm going to unhide my video layer and take this for its first test drive. So I'm going to press spacebar. That was easy. Our goal is to create a nice seamless loop. And depending upon your video clip and what it's of, it might be really difficult to create that illusion of a nice seamless loop. It might not look seamless if your last frame and your first frame are too different. So there's a little trick that we can use to try and smooth out that motion. This trick might not work for every video clip and every type of motion, but it's something worth trying if you're finding that you're not getting a nice smooth loop. So what we'll do is we'll duplicate our video layer. So I'm going to click and drag and drop it on top of the new layer button, and I'm going to expand out my timeline window and zoom in a little bit so we can see what's going on. So we have our original video layer and we have our copy. And what we'll do is we'll take our original video layer, they're both the same so it really doesn't matter which one, but we do want the underlying layer, and we're going to move it so that it lines up with the end of the other video clip. And this can be a little confusing, but just know that right now my video clip starts here, and this video clip that we've offset in the timeline, it starts at the same place that this clip does. Once you have them aligned, you're going to extend out the length of that video clip so it's about halfway underneath the top one, and then you're going to trim it down so it ends at the same time as everything else. So at the end of this clip, because we haven't moved it, we've trimmed it, we're still ending this clip on the first frame of this clip. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a very subtle transition so that as this clip plays, it will eventually fade out and we'll see this clip underneath. This clip will end on the first frame of this clip, which will help smooth out that motion for that seamless loop. So to create this transition effect, we're going to start off by moving our current time indicator to the beginning of that second clip. And then on the top video layer, we're going to twirl it open by clicking on that arrow, and we're going to click on the opacity stopwatch. And what that does is it adds a little keyframe into our timeline. And if we look over in our layer palette, and I'm just going to bring that a little closer in. All right, this layer, that top video layer, its opacity is at 100%. And then we're going to move our current time indicator as far to the right as we can. Because I'm really zoomed in, it won't let me take it right to the edge, but this represents the last frame of our video. And we're going to add another keyframe by clicking on the diamond. And at this point in time, which is what a keyframe represents, I want to change the opacity to 0. So that top clip will gradually fade out, revealing this underlying clip. And just so you really understand what we're doing, I'm going to hide that bottom video clip. And if I scrub through the timeline, what you'll see is once we hit that first keyframe that we added, everything's 100%, and then it gradually becomes lighter and lighter and lighter. I'm going to unhide that second video layer, and we'll see if this helps smooth out the motion. So for all intents and purposes, we're done. The Cinemagraph is complete. And you know that you can render this out as a video file. But today we're going to create an animated GIF. And what's nice about an animated GIF is it's a file format that's frequently found on the internet. So that makes it very versatile. You can essentially use an animated GIF any place on a website or a web page where just an ordinary JPEG or GIF image could be placed. So we're going to go to File, Export, Save for Web Legacy. And you're going to see a lot of options and information here, but the only parts we need to worry about are right down here in the lower right portion of this palette. We want to make sure that our looping options are set forever. And also notice too that you can change how large that final file is as well. We're going to click Save, And then to preview that final animation, that final GIF, you can just drag and drop it on top of a browser icon, like Safari, and it will play back in the web browser window. You're done.